my first words should be of appreciation because being here, as you may see, I am now representing a very distant land, Latin America. So the fact is that I would like to express my appreciation to Professor Song because he was the one involved in me here, being here. So what I would like to do today, and that's my simple agenda, is just to look at the perspective of Latin America on APEC and regionalism. What's really happening on our region? I would like to start by the very basics, but highlighting what really matters for us in Latin America. The 21 members include economies with a coastline in the Pacific Ocean. 9 economies belong to the G20, Mexico, China included in them. And the Latin American countries that belong to APEC are Mexico, Chile, and Peru. And as you may see, the timeline says that it was in the 1990s when we get membership into this APEC forum. Additionally, from Latin America, there are some candidates: Costa Rica, Colombia, Panama, and Ecuador are countries that are seeking the opportunity of becoming members of APEC. So Latin America is going to be an important player in what's going to happen in the integration in our region. Additionally, I would like to say that APEC was not founded initially as a formal or legally binding free trade agreement. But, as it was mentioned in previous presentations, the member economies have gradually formed free trade agreements with other member economies, bilateral agreements, sub-regional agreements, even cross regional and trans-regional agreements. And that's the way things are happening now. And the importance that we give to APEC, it's obviously because it's the main economic cooperation forum in the Asia-Pacific region. I don't have to back my statement when I say that this is the more dynamic region of the world. I am doing studies on gravity models, and everything is telling me that the gravity center now is in the Pacific. So whatever is going to happen in the future is going to be solved in this very region. APEC is important for the Latin American countries because of the 3 areas in which we are working. One is trade and investment liberalization, business facilitation, and economic and technical cooperation. That means capacity building. But specifically applied to our countries, what we see that APEC, giving that a premier forum of facilitating economic growth, is going to help us to diversify trade. One of the things that we can be proud of as Latin Americans is that now Latin American goods are more known in the Pacific, in the Asian Pacific. Now you can drink Chilean wine, Mexican tequila, or you can even enjoy some good fruits from Colombia or from many mining comes from Peru. So we're partaking on those. Increase investment. That's definitely one of our goals. How to get more investment, because as you may figure out, one thing that we share in common in Latin America is our language. We all speak Spanish because we are former Spanish colonies. And then one thing that because of that framework, that means that we became very dependent on exporting raw materials, natural resources. That was our main export. So we would like to move into the next stage. We are doing a good deal in industrialization. And now, for instance, Mexico is having some important reforms in the energy sector, in which Chinese seem to be very much interested in investing. So increased investment definitely is one of the benefits we see by belonging to APEC. And obviously facilitating the access of our countries to new technologies. And here is one hot issue comes into place, and I am very pleased that my presentation is in this right position, because last presentation was about connectivity, and that's what we really need in Latin America. We still have to improve a lot in telecommunications. We still need many infrastructure. Actually, one of the things that my people told me when they know that I will be here voicing their interest, they say, try to tell the people that will hear you that we need more investment in infrastructure development. That's what we need. We need better ports. We need better airports. We need good highways. And then that's the point that I would like to just make. Now, regarding the future of this APEC forum, it seems like many factors are influencing it. Among them are the expansion dilemma, and here is where one important issue comes into place: what's going to happen with the free trade agreement on the Asia Pacific. Obviously, the fact that the meeting that happened just a few days ago, in which they were saying what they will try to get is the roadmap to really get to that very goal of having the FTAP. Obviously, free trade agreements proliferation among the economies, which is very well known that is going actually to become an obstacle if we don't solve it. Now, about regionalism, I would like to deal first with the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a proposed regional free trade agreement. It's under negotiation now. It's important to highlight that the TPP was initiated by 4 APEC members. So the inception is in APEC itself. Singapore, Chile, New Zealand, and Brunei Darussalam. But Chile is important here because my perspective is from Latin America. So Chile was one member of the P4 members that started the TPP. Then, obviously, there were added more: Australia, Brunei Darussalam, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, the US, and Vietnam. And now the US and Japan are holding bilateral meetings. But my point here is, as you may see, the Latin Americans here will be Mexico, Peru, and Chile, with Chile being one of the beginners of that TPP agreement. Then, obviously, we will be very much involved. Mexico came into play once NAFTA decided to belong to this TPP. You may see how the TPP turned from the south of the Pacific, and now it moved to the north, right? Because all the NAFTA is involved, and then obviously most of the weight of what's going to happen in the future depends on exactly that. What I am putting in different color, obviously, here is what other countries may be interested, and then which one should be there sooner or later. And obviously, that obviously includes China and India as important players. TPP's founding principles is open regionalism. So we assume, as Latin Americans, that everyone that qualifies for it must apply for a membership. We understand, and it's clearly for us, that it seems to be a pragmatic patchwork that reflects an evenness of trans-Pacific trade and investment prospects. And that's why sometimes some countries will say, we better wait. But for us, preferential agreements should be viewed as a building block and not as a stumbling block of open regionalism. And it seems that for some, the TPP is a stumbling block. It's not allowing the FTAP to happen still. So in order to get this, and I guess that the cartoon I pasted there is very clear. It seems like we have two opposite, going into opposite directions, TPP and Asian regionalism. TPP, obviously, having 11.3% of the population and almost 40% of the total world GDP, 20.6% of the world trade, and ASEAN plus 6, or the Economic Asian Summit, which in reality represents that effort of Asian regionalism, is the one that has half of the population of the world, 27.8% of the world GDP, 27.6% of the world trade. And as you may see, the fact that the TPP includes the US is the one that is making the balance favoring the size, the economic size of the TPP versus the ASEAN plus 6. So in order to have an idea, obviously, we Latin Americans acknowledge that it's not going to be easy that we will belong to that EA's side. Then, obviously, we are in the TPP side. For us, TPP presents strategic and political opportunities for countries of Asia and the Americas. TPP has the potential to boost the U.S. recovery, and that's important for us in Mexico because we're very much co-integrated with that economy. We're very much connected with them. It's told in a saying in our country that when the U.S. sneezes, we catch a flu. And then it's very important that we really help in that sense. Then, as you may understand, our position is obviously supporting TPP because obviously we want the incomes to raise, to promote market-oriented norms, to strengthen foundations of regional stability. Obviously, we would like all the entire Asia-Pacific region to incorporate and to embrace TPP. But obviously, that means to reach to the requirements that TPP is setting. So, Latin America and APEC. Each country of Latin America obviously should improve its infrastructure. That's one of the first things that we watch. And then when that consensus was reached about connectivity, we were very glad to say, hey, that's where we're heading to. Increasing institutional presence in the region. The value of Latin America, as you may figure out, is not as big as it may be, at least regionally speaking. Land seems to be larger than in reality what it means in economic terms. We want to look for alliances with relevant partners in order to increase the free trade agreements. And one thing that we have done, Mexico, Peru, and Chile, is that we have created the Pacific Alliance. So imagine, to those many agreements, now you have one more, the Pacific Alliance that you have to take into account. Latin Americans uniting around one goal, obviously. And the point here, and that's where we have been a great success, is to integrate private sector, academy, and government in anything that is going to happen in this Asia-Pacific insertion in the future. So, concluding thoughts. Latin American members of APEC show interest that APEC keep progressing, both its agenda and the opportunities that are presented to us in the future are important, and then we will keep belonging and participating in APEC meetings. We acknowledge that Asia represents for us an opportunity, and the stability that we have seen in this area is closely correlated with the rise of trade and investment opportunities that Latin Americans have faced in the last years. So we want to really overcome that so-called noodle bowl effect. What's the best way to go then? Obviously, I will have to say I support the idea of progressing to really get the free trade agreement of the Asia-Pacific. So that's the idea. We should try to look this perspective of win-win thing, so that even if the TPP happens without China, China should try to go in a way in which the FTAP must be a reality, so that the Bogor goals can be reached. Maybe not in 2020, but close in the near future. I thank you very much.